Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Aubrey. I'm so happy to have you all here with me today. So it is now the middle of August, which means that summer is officially beginning to come to a close. And I know that a lot of us are really ready for fall. It's a very cozy season, getting into all of the spooky things with Halloween coming up. But I thought that we would go through a few books today that you may want to read before the end of summer. So today I'm actually going to talk about 5 cozy fantasy books that I think are perfect for summertime. So I know that a lot of us tend to think about cozy fantasy more in the fall, but there are some books that I think definitely fit the summer for me personally, either because they take place in the summer or something about the vibes and the aesthetic and the story itself just makes me think of summertime. So I do have 4 novels that we're going to look at and then 1 graphic novel. So we're going to go through each of these and hopefully you'll find something that you want to read as a last little hurrah at the end of summer leading into fall. So the first book that I want to talk about is Ella Enchanted by Gail Carson Levine. I love Ella Enchanted. If you have seen the movie with Anne Hathaway, which is really good, the book is even better. The movie doesn't necessarily follow the plot of the book super closely. I do still love the movie because I love Anne Hathaway and I did see the movie before I read the book. But the book, it follows a girl named Ella who is cursed as a baby to always obey orders that are given to her. The fairy who gives her this, who curses her with this, it means it to be a blessing, it means it to be something that will help her in life, but as you can probably imagine, being forced to follow orders that people give you, like not having a choice, leads to a lot of complications and can be very difficult. So Ella lives with this from the time that she is a baby. So she grows up with this. And we see her going to school and trying to make friends and dealing with a really difficult family situation. And there are lots of fantasy creatures and races in here. There is some romance. It is just very cozy. It is a middle grade story, but just following Ella along on her adventures and getting to see her grow and trying to find a way to break this curse, trying to make a difference in her kingdom for the different races who are not always treated equally, who in some cases are viewed very poorly, and there's like some antagonism between some of the races and humans. And just seeing her go on these adventures, it's so magical and it's so sweet and it is just so enjoyable. And if you're a fan of the movie, I do really recommend that you try the book because, like I said, the movie leaves out and changes quite a bit. And I do think that the book is even better, that the story is, it has like a lot more substance to it in the book, I think. And so I do highly recommend this one. As I said, it does have a lot of summer vibes because not that the whole thing takes place in summer, but just her journeying around this kingdom and going to this boarding school and going through these forests. And I don't know, it just, I think is a really good book to read during the summer. Then the second one that I have, you may have heard of before, and that is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. I love this book so much. It is so precious and so sweet, and we have this really wonderful found family element in here. So in this book we follow Linus Baker, who works for social services for magical children. I can't remember the name of the organization. The department in charge of magical youth. And so he is responsible for monitoring these orphanages where magical children are sent. And one day he gets this assignment where he is sent to this particular orphanage on this island where he is essentially, one of the children is believed to potentially be the Antichrist. And this orphanage is where a lot of these magical kids who don't really fit in anywhere else are sent. And there is a lot of prejudice against them from the people in the nearby town. There is a lot in this book about learning to be yourself and accept who you are, even when other people don't necessarily appreciate your differences. You learn to appreciate those, and showing, like, helping other people to see that you are still a person, even though you don't fit like the mold of what they believe that you should be. And it has just such really good messages, and these children are so precious. They really deal with a lot, and they are so strong, being able to just overcome adversity in the face of other people just looking down on them and treating them poorly just because of how they look. And or like the abilities, like how they're born, essentially. Then we also have some romance, because Linus does meet the caretaker of this orphanage, Arthur Parnassus. Yes, Parnassus. And there may be some romance. You see Linus really coming into his own and finding a place that he belongs, and realizing that there is more to life than just regulations and rules. That while those are important, there is a lot more to consider with the human element. And he's just kind of been coasting through his life at this point, and he's really starting to see that he can have the life that he wants. He can have a better life, and he can have people who love him and appreciate him for who he is, and who he can love and appreciate in turn. It's so good, and it's so wholesome, and it really does have summer, like the summer aesthetic, because these kids like go on a hiking trip in the forest on their island. They are near a beach. It's got like just this cottage in the woods kind of aesthetic to it, and it's just so lovely. So lovely. I cannot recommend it enough. And if all of that was not enough to convince you to read this now, if you haven't read it already, the sequel, Somewhere Beyond the Sea, is coming out. Gosh, is it next month? It's sometime this fall. So if you read this, then you'll be ready for the sequel. And I really do think that this book really fits summer. And it just feels like a warm hug. I teared up so many times in this book, not because I was really sad, but because there are just so many impactful statements and so many scenes where you just feel for these kids and you're so impressed by them. And it's so lovely. It is so lovely. It's like a warm hug and a cup of tea and like a freshly baked muffin, all wrapped up into one. And I just love it so much. It is so good, and I cannot recommend it to you enough. Right, so the next book that I have to show you, like with Ella Enchanted, there is a movie adaptation. This one has actually been done by Studio Ghibli, but once again, the movie is very, very different from the book. In fact, although I really like the movie, I would say that really Miyazaki took the basic concept of the book and then the characters and made his own story. So if you've seen the movie, you still need to read the book, because it just has really wonderful classic fantasy vibes, and that is Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. And this is the first book in a series. I think the series is just called Howl. I could be wrong, but there are 2 other books in the series that follow other characters in the same world, and they're all kind of intertwined with one another. But this one is probably the most well known, and it is the first one. So in this book, we follow a girl named Sophie Jenkins, who is a hat maker, and she's very, very good at making hats. She lives in the land of Ingery, and her sisters are, she has 2 older sisters. I think they're older than her, but they are going off to kind of find their place in life, either getting a new career or falling in love and getting married. And so Sophie is just kind of the only one left to run this hat shop that her father owns. And one day the Witch of the West shows up asking for a bonnet and is very displeased by what Sophie is able to give her. She's not happy. So she puts a curse on Sophie that turns her into an old woman. And I'm going to be honest, Sophie takes this in stride a lot better than I would. I would be panicking, but Sophie is just kind of like, well, I mean, I didn't ever really think my life was going to add up to anything anyway, so I'm just going to go out and maybe try to find a way to reverse this, but also just kind of see what happens. So she goes out on an adventure, and she ends up coming upon the moving castle, of the wizard Hal. Oh no, it's not Sophie Jenkins, it's Hal Jenkins. Sorry. So she comes upon the wizard Howl and his magically moving castle, and there are a lot of rumors about Howl, none of them flattering. That he is a womanizer, that he is evil and mean, not a good wizard, but Sophie ends up becoming his housekeeper and taking care of his house and living with him and his apprentice. There is a fire demon named Calcifer who lives in the fireplace. There is a scarecrow who moves. All the while Sophie is cursed to be an old woman, Howl is the most dramatic person you will ever meet. It is so good, and the twist about like who Hal is and stuff, it's just delightful. I love everything about this book, and like I said, it really has those classic old fantasy like bits and pieces that we love. This story, the way that it is set up, the way that it is told, it really reminds me a lot of Tolkien, which makes sense because if I'm remembering correctly, I think Diana Wynne Jones was a student of Tolkien's. I'm pretty sure. I know that there was someone who like was the only one that would show up to one of his classes like every time, and I can't remember if it was her or Ursula K. Le Guin, but essentially like he wanted people to just not come to that class because he wanted to have more time to write, and either her or Le Guin would just show up every class and he would just have to lecture and teach instead of writing, which I think is a really amusing story. But I can't blame her. Whichever of the two ladies it was, I would have been there. I would have loved to live in a time period where I could attend classes taught by J.R.R. Tolkien or C.S. Lewis, or any of the Inklings. Like, I would have died. But I just think that it is such a good book. It is so funny. Sophie, you follow everything in the story from Sophie's perspective, and she is really just humorous the way that she handles different situations. She just kind of embraces being like an old woman, and is like, this gives her an excuse to say what she wants and to do what she wants. And it is just such a good story. And seeing Howl and Sophie learning to coexist in the same castle, seeing Sophie uncovering all of these mysteries, and it's just so good. I love this book so much, and like I said, I honestly think it's a lot better than the movie. I love the movie. It's a Studio Ghibli movie, which automatically makes it delightful and whimsical and wonderful. But again, as with Ella Enchanted, I think that the book is a lot better, just because there's so much more to it, and the story is quite different in a number of ways from the story that's in the movie. So even if you've seen the movie, I still think you should read the book. And it does, it does just feel like summertime. The land, or the city of Market Chipping that Sophie lives in originally, is just so quaint, and there's like bread making, and you know, she works in a hat shop, and it's just so sweet and so cozy. And even the conflict in here doesn't feel like it takes away from that cozy, comfortable feeling that you're really getting in the story. So I think that this is a great cozy fantasy to read in the summertime especially. It could also be read in the fall, I think, but for me personally, I just really feel like it fits the summer. Okay, then the last novel that I have for you before we look at the graphic novel is, again, the first in a series, and that is The Raven Boys. So this is the first book in the Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. How can I describe this series? It's so whimsical and weird and delightful. And if you are from the South at all, like I am, you're really going to appreciate the Southern kind of feeling that you get in here, just the culture in their towns. And then it's a good combination of like Celtic lore and Southern, not exactly Gothic, but sort of. It's just very difficult to describe. So in this story, we follow this girl named Blue Sargent, who, although she is not psychic herself, is the daughter of a psychic. In fact, all of the women in her family all of whom live in the same house with her, are psychics except for Blue. But Blue does possess the ability to enhance psychic abilities in other people when they are around her. So one day Blue is attending a ceremony with her aunt. I'm pretty sure it's her aunt. And she sees a vision with her aunt there of this boy. And this particular ceremony, it essentially shows everyone in town who's going to die within the next year. So because she sees him there, that means that he is going to die. And Blue has also been given this prediction since she was very young that whoever she falls in love with, whoever is her true love, if she kisses him, it will kill him. He will die. So she's having a lot to deal with here, especially when the boy that she sees in this ceremony, she then meets. So she meets 4 boys, a group of friends, who go to this elite school, Agliombi Academy. Their mascot is the Raven, so the boys who go there are known as the Raven Boys. And these 4 friends are Gainsey, Ronan, Noah, and Adam. And she finds out that they are searching for this legend of this dead Welsh king. So they're trying to find this dead king's resting place because supposedly if you find him, you get a wish. So she gets enmeshed in their quest. Like the family and the friendships in here are so beautiful. And it's like the writing style in here is so whimsical, and so much gets involved. So we have ley lines, we have this Welsh king, we have this weird forest. Not going to try to spoil anything. We have like Latin being used, this elite academy. This is all taking place in Georgia. It is in Georgia, right? I think it's Georgia. I'm pretty sure it's in Georgia. And this like juxtaposition between Blue and Adam, who out of the 4 boys is the only one who is not wealthy, and then these 3 boys who are like from these very elite families. You get to learn a lot about their backgrounds and stuff, and there are a number of really dark things in the series. Like, do not get me wrong, book 2 especially I felt like had a lot of dark subject matter and dark themes in it, but the first book is so, to me, it's cozy. And I know it's not going to be cozy for everyone. I feel like that's a very subjective thing from person to person about what you find to be a cozy read. To me, this series is very cozy. And so I just think that it's just so delightful. And like I said, it's really, really whimsical. But you also have like the contrast between the whimsy and the magic. And then like they're in Georgia and they're going to like a pizza shop and having like after school jobs, and so we have that big contrast there. And then you also have like Blue's family who are all psychics, so that is in there, and it's just so good. I genuinely, this is one of my favorite series that I've ever read, and the first book was just such a delight to read. I was hooked very quickly. And I do think that the first one especially, and it doesn't necessarily, like I said, not all of it is going to take place in summer. In fact, this one I think takes place mostly in the fall, but it just feels summery to me. I don't know why, I don't know how to explain it, but this one could be one that you read in the summer or the fall, but to me it just fits the summer. I really don't know. I guess just this idea of these 5 kids, these 5 teenagers just going on this journey and exploring the southern wilderness and tracking down ley lines and stuff. I don't know. The adventure part of it just feels very summery to me. But yeah, I love it so much. I think if you haven't read this, you need to read it, and now would be a great time. This little last leg of summer would be the perfect time to check this out. Okay, so the last book that I have to recommend to you guys today is a graphic novel, and again, you may have heard of this one. It is quite popular, but that is The Tea Dragon Society by Katie O'Neill. This is the first book in the Tea Dragon series, and this one does actually go through all 4 seasons in it. It is very short, so you don't spend a whole ton of time in any of those seasons, but for some reason to me, I just feel like it's a really good read for the summer. But so in this book, we follow Greta, who is trying to become a blacksmith. So she's training to be a blacksmith. And one day she finds a tea dragon and then meets these two men, Eric and Hesekiel, and their ward, who is named Minette. Yes, so we have Minette. And Eric and Hesekiel actually raise tea dragons and take care of them. They are retired adventurers. They're a little older now, and so they've opened up this tea shop and they care for these tea dragons. And so Greta kind of becomes a part of this little family that they've built, and she starts to learn how to care for tea dragons and just kind of like bond with all of them and learn about this art that has been fading kind of out of existence within recent years. And it's just so sweet. There's literally nothing problematic in here at all. There is a scene where you see, because Eric is in a wheelchair, and you do kind of see what happens when he and Hesekiel are younger, that put him in the wheelchair and that kind of put a bit of an end to their adventuring life together. So there is that. There is just that little bit of violence in there, but it's nothing like, oh, world shattering. You know that they're okay. You know that they're living this good life afterwards. And so it's really just this very character focused, really like narrow scope down on this little mountain village, and specifically Greta and Minette and Eric and Hesekiel and Greta's family. You're just really narrowed down in on them, and it's just so sweet and cozy. And like I said, it goes through all 4 seasons. I don't really know specifically why it makes me think of summer. I think it's just kind of the aesthetic throughout the whole book of the colors that are used and the constant presence of like plant imagery in the borders of the pages. I'm trying to find something that's not too spoilery. Like, they constantly are using flowers and branches and vines in the borders. The art style is very soft and sweet. There's a lot of tea drinking. Their cottage is the cutest thing. So, I don't know. It just definitely makes me feel like summertime, but like soft summertime, you know, like the very beginning or the very end of it. So I feel like this is a really good book to read at this point in the year, and it is, like I said, very, very short. It's very quick to get through. It is the first in a series of 3 of these graphic novels, so if you like this first one, you can then continue on and explore more. I have read the second one, where we follow Eric's sister's kid, and so Eric and Hesekiel are in it, and they're like younger. This is like in the past when they're still adventurers before they've opened their tea shop. I have not read the third one. The second one was really cute as well, and also very, very summery. So if you like this one, you could probably even fit in all 3 before fall arrives. So there is that one. But yeah, so those are 5 cozy fantasy books that I think feel very summery. I think that they're really good to read if you want to just have a nice cozy end to your summer and leading into fall. So those are ones that I personally would recommend. If you have any cozy fantasy books that really make you think of summer, I would love to hear about them in the comments. Or if you've read any of these and you would like to share your thoughts, just please keep them spoiler free, but I would love to hear from you down there as well. Or if you haven't read any of these and now you're really excited and you're planning on reading them, I would love to hear about that too. But I would like to do more of these like little recommendation videos. I think I'll do one for the fall, because I definitely have more cozy fantasy for the fall than I do for the summer, I think. But these ones just really fit summer for me personally. So I think I'll definitely do another video maybe in October where we go over some cozy fall fantasy books. I think that would be really nice. If you would like to leave an emoji in the comments, let's do a unicorn for the unicorn on Elle Enchanted. There's a unicorn emoji, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, let's leave a unicorn emoji for this beautiful Let Joy Crate edition. Look at how pretty. It's so pretty. But yeah, you can leave that like with your comment, or if you don't know what to say and you just want to leave an emoji to let me know you were there. I love seeing each and every one of your comments and getting to respond to them. It makes me very happy. So yeah, thank you guys all so much for watching. I hope that you are having a wonderful day or a wonderful night wherever you are, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!
Let me have it. Oh.